This is Business and Government Today with your host, Connie Johnson. This is Connie Johnson with Business and Government Today. We are excited about the show. I know that there's so many news programs out there. We have so many new technologies coming around, and we know that we need to focus on what brings us together as a nation that is powerful and a nation that is focused on integrity and ethics. And we know that a new show can only benefit us at this stage in government. Now, you know exactly what we're here for. We're here to make sure that you get the truth, that the truth is in your reach, and that you can make a difference with your writing to the Federal Register and writing to your congressional members, writing to your state officials to oppose or approve or support bills that are aligned to either help you or cause devastation. That's what we're here for. So I'm excited to start this show, Business and Government Today. You deserve a great economy, and you deserve to laugh at it sometimes. And that's what we're here to do. We want to make sure you laugh. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Connie Johnson. The truth about the education department. Well, we are about to explore why the education department is the focus of the Trump administration to dismantle. Of all the agencies, the prison system, the prison system and how they arrested people for smoking marijuana for years and years and years and put them in jail sometimes for 30 years. And that department is fine. We're not focused on that department. We're going to focus on education. The education. The education department, created by none other than Jimmy Carter. So, I believe that the reason behind the failure, and the failure is why President Trump feels that the reason why the education department has to close is because it has failed. Our scholastic scores do not measure up in comparison to the other nations, and namely the more civilized nations around the world. I don't believe that that's the issue. I believe the issue is based on the state's failures. Let me explain. The states will assume responsibility for the educational system, all schools, when the federal education department, when the U.S. education department is removed. And I know that the states are responsible for the failures. We're not going to talk about teacher pay as the main focus. We're going to talk about students starving, teachers starving, and teachers living in shelters to survive and still teach. Dedication. Teachers are targeted and made to fail because the nation refuses to pay them adequate wages. A teacher takes on 4 sets of classes during the day. And in the evening, she prepares for the next day or prepares for the week. She makes half of what most people who are in her education level or his educational level receives. And then summer approaches and there are no wages after all that work. And I mean, it's work. You're preparing students for tests, for evaluations every quarter, not every year, every quarter. If your children do not pass, or not children, if your students do not pass these tests, you could be removed. It's stress, it's money, lack of money, and a huge, enormous amount of time. Our educational system enslaves people, and they're called teachers. California's teachers are living in shelters. Shelters. They have decided they're just going to build some teachers' apartments or another form of a shelter to make sure that they're housed while they're teaching with lower wages. Now, they're living in shelters, not teacher shelters, but regular shelters, sleeping beside women who are addicted to heroin. And not to say that people addicted to heroin are mean, bad people, but they smoke drugs which emits throughout the room when they return to their sleeping quarters, and the teacher is next to this addict's bed, and they are expected to teach the next day with excellence. Some teachers are even relying on students to, when you're forced to administer tests and students cannot pass the test and your income is based on students, that means you're relying on students to give you some money. The educational system is not systematic. It is not in order. It is not in its proper order to provide excellence in instruction. And it is not scholarly enough to compete internationally. We don't have any problems with education. We have problems with the infrastructure and the systems of education. But it takes a leader to understand that it is not a person or a department that causes failure in a system of government. It takes a smart leader. These are the things that need to occur for the education department. Number 1, teacher pay must triple. We must put teachers in a position of priority to receive at least 3 times what they're receiving today. It should be a sought after occupation. Number 2, students arrive hungry. Both rich and poor students are not fed properly. We need to provide free lunch, free breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They need to take food with them. It doesn't have to be a full dinner, but they need to take food with them home. Because some of the wealthier kids, parents are rarely there. And this is the truth. And the third and most important reason, we have to become way more scholarly than we are. And if you don't know what scholarly means and what the process entails, you'll have to come to my session because it'll take too long to figure it out. My kids, my daughter and her son are honor students. And when they don't want to be honor students, they're not. But when they want to be honor students, they know how. I am always reinforcing education in my family. That is what everyone needs to do. Reinforce education. I know my education and my knowledge and my experiences. Jesus loves me, honey, okay? My experiences are unique and different. And I know what to do to make sure that the youth, the children of this nation, the youth of this nation are achieving. And not just achieving grades, but are knowledgeable and can stand in front of any group, any person, and recite and teach whatever they need to put forth to prove that they are scholarly, educated students. I have the answers. But it takes a leader with creativity to prepare students to be successful. It's not the education department. It's creative leadership. Robots work for free. And this is a brief, just a brief moment to talk about robotics and AI. Robotics and AI are magnificent discoveries to understand how we can build communications and build knowledge using data and recording data so that when it is heard by, not heard because robots can't hear, but when it is calculated, it can present information that it would take us weeks and months and years to calculate and summarize. But what I am interested in briefly speaking about is how important it is to understand that when we support this type of technology, we are causing great disruptions throughout our society. The inventor of AI, one of the greatest, who just won a Nobel Peace Prize, has confirmed that over 40%, from 40 to 50% of our jobs will be unnecessary because of AI technology. Now, if we were logical, and I am, but if all of us were logical, we would understand that this is the enemy of human interaction and human evolution and productivity. Building robots and building mechanics they are beautiful. And it is a marvelous challenge to build beautiful technologies that make things move quicker and more efficient. But when they disrupt our very economy, we cannot lean on the excitement of the innovation. We have to lean on what is in the best interest of humanity. Now, I told everyone to pee on the food being delivered by these robots. Now, I'm not trying to be gross or oppose technology. I am being realistic. Understand that you cannot stand idly by and watch robots take your jobs. You cannot sit on the sidelines and watch robots march down in the parade, taking your economy. So I'm asking you to unplug these robots when they're standing in front of you in the job search lines, or when there is opportunity in front of you. Do not let these AIs and robots remove your occupations. Do what must be done to maintain your incomes. Unplug them. Do what's necessary. We are not slaves to billionaires who like to create wonderful ways of, and cute little robots walking around us talking. We are wise, logical, scientific, mathematical, and we need to add up, calculate how these robots will impact our society and do what needs to be done. Amen.
DEI gets you out of the way.
Connie Johnson, I'm back with you to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have to understand that there is a system in place that is designed to provide all regions of the country with beautiful opportunities for our entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are responsible for registering with their state and federal government to make sure that they are vendors to receive contractual opportunities in every industry. You don't have to qualify for a particular industry if your skill set applies to the contract. And it takes some effort to qualify for these state and federal contracts as vendors by completing numerous forms and submitting your resumes and your presentations for each and every listed contract. And these contracts could vary from peeling potatoes to building parachutes, all across the board. Now, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Presently, women receive 3% of both the state and federal government's contracts, business contracts. Women entrepreneurs only receive 3%. Black entrepreneurs receive, 1 to 2%, depending on the state. Mississippi, where are they? So I laugh, but I cry. Now we look at the Hispanic and Latino contracts, and they're hovering around the same percentage as women receive, around 3%. So what we need to understand clearly is that 90% of the federal contracts are generally awarded to men who are white. And you don't even have to be from America, Elon Musk. You don't even have to be from America. You receive the bulk of the federal contracts. And this has gone on since Washington. We are facing a federal effort through the Trump administration to pad and protect the contracts for white males. DEI wipes the slate clean of responsibility to award women, Black people, Latino, Hispanic entrepreneurs of any contract, anything. It's padding and protecting the economy of white men. So, what we need to do is to understand that this has to change. Why? And what audacity do we have to state that women may know the same information and have the same abilities as white men to get these contracts because we pay half the money for the contracts? Tax dollars are neck and neck. People are paying their share. Women are paying their taxes. And these taxes that we pay, we women, are applied to run our federal government, our state government. So we're paying taxes to run the government and receiving what? 3% of the contracts to fill work opportunities, to fill opportunities to counsel, to create systems that benefit the country. And who better is qualified to do that? If anything needs to be in place, is DEI, because that trick is not something that dog can do. We need to make sure that if anything closes, it is this injustice against women, the injustice against Black people, Hispanic people, Arab people, to receive equity, to make sure that a diverse people create these projects and these systems. That's why the United States was created, to bring us together, to share the knowledge we've gained. And it must happen.
More entrepreneurs balances the tariffs.
The last segment of Business and Government today. And it is a culmination of all of the issues we've discussed today on this show. This is the May 4th first show of Business and Government today. And I thank you for tuning in and getting an idea of what significant progress we will create and make from this show. Your input, your comments, your likes, your tuning in every week, every Sunday will make such a tremendous difference to our world, because I will never lie to you. Now, I will comedically, if that's a word, as a comedy-focused promoter, I have always been a comedy promoter since I was about 20 years old. I work with Brad Greenberg and the gang and learn the ins and outs of comedy. And that is the master, Brad Greenberg, of comedy. I want you to always support us and always engage. We will invite beautiful, talented comedians on the show coming up real soon. And this will bring us great joy at the beginning of every week to start our weeks off with a bang and with great inspiration. But I'd like to close out this show talking about President Trump's tariffs. The reason why we have such economic difficulties is because we deny groups of people opportunities in business development. We are missing exports and imports because we do not give women economic opportunities in entrepreneurship. In the previous segments, I mentioned that women only receive 3% of the federal contracts. That is violent. It is not something to simply mention and jump over and move to the next issue. It is something we must immediately address. This is violent. 50%, no less than 40% of the taxes are paid by women. This government is run from the funds of at least 40% of the taxes that come from women. Yet we only receive 3% of the contracts for our women entrepreneurs. So the imports and exports only belong to white men. And if we continue to only focus on the imports and exports of white men as a nation that focuses on a United States, which is states that are united with every culture on earth. And that's something that gives us an edge. It gives us power to have people from every continent, ancestors from every continent, engaged in an economic woven blanket that takes care of this nation. We know everything about every continent because that's who we are. We are a nation that encompasses every nation on earth. We have to be the greatest. There's no way around it. We have merged our ideas and concepts to grow this nation. Most of the innovations of the world up until 1970 come from the United States. When those who were violated, enslaved unjustly, with violent injustice, arrived to freedom, when Lincoln emancipated all people across the country, women, men, every race, every culture, a man like Lewis Latimer emerged, who was the inventor of the light bulb. And even today, Latimer is denied his crown that allowed him to light the world, bring light to every room, every street. We are great because of diversity. We are great because we are moving towards what George Washington started and what he wanted through an evolution that targeted and an evolution with the goal of freedom for every person in the United States. He did not surrender to King George. He did not allow abuses of power to control this land. They fought independence to give freedom to every person on this earth. Oh, but they had slaves, you say. Well, I visited their homes, and there were no chains, and they did not remove any chains. And if you want to know why, it's because George Washington's father owned 300 slaves. And he opened the door one day after his father had died, and they were standing outside, 300 people expecting to be cared for. And George Washington said, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I went from one day to the next having to take care of health care, child care, housing for 300 people. And when he became president, after warring for the freedom of all people, away from the abuses of power, he appointed John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and all of those men abhorred slavery. When you visit their homes, I visited more than 30 presidential homes. And I'm telling you that these were abolitionists that took care of people, mainly black people, allowed them to care for their homes, walk through their homes, cook their food, and they lived with these people because they believed that one day their children would be free, and that they were going to take care of these people as best as they could until they could determine the path to freedom for all people. To remove the statues of the founding fathers is total ignorance. But I'm asking you today to understand that these tariffs are taking place, and this imbalance of the economies of the world and needing to increase tariffs to justify why we're in debt is violently unfair. We're in debt because people in this country are stripped from their jobs without notice. People in this country are not given their fair share of the revenues that are awarded from our federal governments and our state government. And we must move in a more ethical direction with integrity. You cannot use your power to strip Americans of their economies.